when you leave that animal that I've always been in awe of, you've left this sort of bleeding, green, dyed hump of polar bear. And that's just not how I wanted to see bears.
You don't become a photographer initially, you become a biologist, and you were depressed in being a biologist. What about it made you feel that way?
I loved the work. The work to me, a lot of the work was very important. I love my colleagues. I liked the work that they were doing. I think, of course, everything's built on science. We need science. But what I didn't like is being a government employee in a government office, and I came into that with that same passion and conviction. I'm going to save the world. I'm going to change the world. And all of a sudden, to come into this machine that just slows you down and almost steals your soul, and you sit there at your desk for day after day being ineffective, and I got this pretty high-ranking job at the age of 22 years old as a government biologist, and it took a year, but I took the first demotion I could to become a field technician, a field biologist, which meant I got a pay cut, which means I didn't have to spend as much time in the office. I could be out in the field helping other scientists who were very good at what they did, and I basically helped them with their field research.
Why did you feel like you were abusing bears?
Any species I worked on, again, the data is quite important, but to take any animal, whether it's a lynx, a wolverine, a wolf, or especially a polar bear, this dominant, powerful animal, this 1,000-pound male bear, and to run it down by snowmobile until it's defecating all over itself, or chase it by helicopter and it's pooping all over itself, and to stick a dart in it and it goes down and it's salivating, and you've taken this beautiful Arctic nomad and reduced it into a pile of sleeping fur on the ice, and then you cut a nail, take some hair samples, you put a big green lip tattoo into the skin on its lip, you punch holes in its ear, and then you take, on females only, you take a big satellite radio collar and you strap that around her neck. And when you leave that animal that I've always been in awe of, you've left this sort of bleeding, green, dyed hump of polar bear. And that's just not how I wanted to see bears. For me to be sitting on the sea ice and to look out and to see a mother polar bear and her 2 cubs of the year, these 2 little cubs, and she's come out of her den and she has to catch a seal. She's looking down, and seals have 6 holes. So how does she catch a seal? No, I could watch her stationing her seals at each hole, and then she herself, when the seal would come up to breathe, the cubs would chase the seal back down, and you'd see the other cub pounce. The seal couldn't get a breath, and eventually the seal's panicking. Mom's hiding. It would come up. Mom would grab it, pull the seal out, and feed her cubs. But to witness that and want to photograph it versus turning that into a couple data points on a sheet of paper, one didn't feed my soul and the other one did. So after 4 years of this, I was becoming more and more obsessed with photography and going down that path. I didn't know that it was a path available to me, but obviously a government job paid well. But at some point, now my mom's against me, everybody's against me. Do not quit a good government paying job. All my colleagues said, do not quit. And
what was their reasoning? Just good money,
you've got
security?
You're 26 years old now. You've got an amazing job. What are you doing? I mean, if you crank this out for 20 more years, you could retire. And I'm like, guys, I'm out. I'm going to go on a journey and see if I can make it in this world. And not many people make it as full-time professional wildlife and nature photographers. So then I set off on the craziest journey of my life, at that point.
How do you think science is flawed in terms of just connecting with people?
I mean, often the best scientists that I've ever worked with, the most brilliant scientists with the biggest minds, with the biggest ideas, they're often, almost always, the worst communicators. They are left brain dominant people. They see the world in math and numbers and data, and they're brilliant. But to have them convey that message to the rest of the world, it's a disaster. They can't communicate. Once in a while you meet somebody who's somehow has both hemispheres of their brains developed, that they're amazing scientists and they're amazing communicators, but it's not the norm. And so that's where I started to see my role. I mean, I hated data. I hated reading scientific papers. I liked being out on the land with the animals, but I didn't like the scientific process. So I thought, if I could just bridge the gap between this important scientific work and the rest of the world by becoming a visual storyteller, now I see a role that I can play in this journey.